Let's break the mold, start believing, and stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Welcome to Wild on 7, presented by Pilot Games. We're here until it's here.
And welcome back to Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast, as always, presented by Pilot Games. We've got a good one here today. We're eventually going to be joined by Assistant General Manager Chris O'Hearn. But before we do that, we've got to get to what occurred last week. Some good stuff. I think the homestand, the Wild have found their game. Ryan Hartman's chest might be the most productive thing the Wild have, 5-on-5. Caprizov he's made a noteworthy move in the goal scoring category that we'll have to get to. And then again, we'll touch on deadline plans before we throw it to Chris O'Hearn. He was with us previously. But Kingard, you had a chance to go to some of the games on this homestand, the Dallas game. Tell us about it.
It was great. I'm emotionally vested in this team. I'm a bit of a rube, even though we do some of these work-related items. And this is the time of year where I get really stressed out because it's like there's a fault line, right? And you're either going to be on the buyer or the seller.
There's a Y in the road.
There's a Y in the road. And I'm like watching. I know you're not supposed to scoreboard watch if you're on the team or whatever, but I have written down who Calgary's playing this week, who Nashville's playing, games in hand. So even like picking up the 2 points yesterday against Nashville instead of handing them one, and the big Dallas victory against the top team in the West, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to do your job. It's fun to go out and just get some hard-working wins against high-quality opponents that you're competing with for the playoffs. So, and the Hartman thing, can you believe there's a guy on our team named Hartman, and he has scored 2 goals off the center of his chest at a time when the team's looking for leadership and moments. Hartman.
And an offensive pulse. 2
off the chest. Can we get an EKG machine to the bench? I mean, what? That's just so great.
You can't make it up.
That's a good sign. I mean, imagine if his name was Shin Man and he scored twice off his shin. You would think it was a huge deal, but I feel like we're not. This is a big deal. Hartman. What's the flex on his aorta?
That's what I was going to say. I got a couple tweets yesterday. What is the curve on Hartman's chest? You know, what's the flex on his ribs right there? We've got to know because he's producing more than anybody else's stick right now. And that's hilarious. But, man, those are big goals. And how
big goals.
The thing with those kind of goals are, and I feel like you could see the mentality of the team kind of like take a sigh and say, oh, good, like it's back.
Yeah.
You know, like we're no longer fighting it.
One less thing to worry about.
The fight is over. Let's just go play now. Like it was like a collective sigh of relief when that one goes in off of Hartman's chest. We do have to go back though. So Niederreiter had an unbelievable game. And he had a hand in absolutely everything out there. He used to be a fan favorite here. I think people
he got the big playoff winner. He was a playoff guy when we didn't have a lot of playoff guys. He was another Y in the road when you actually do get to the playoffs. He was on the right side in the big games.
Let's just recap his game quick.
Do it.
So first period, he ends up saving a goal. So it's shorthanded. Shaw has a wide open net. Niederreiter goes in there, plays street hockey goalie, and saves it. Then he goes down. I think he gets a high stick, and all of a sudden we hate him because he catches Brodin up high, and then Brodin has to go down the tunnel. Yeah, 4 minutes. He makes 2 like defensive plays that were phenomenal. I think one probably saved a goal, and then all of a sudden, the end of the game, he scores the tire.
Where we think we're giving him a point minimum.
Right. Like, oh my goodness, here we go again. And that might be the best tip I think I've ever seen live. Like, he's wide of the net on his forehand, tips it up, and redirects it towards the net. Top shelf. Man, I don't know. That was pretty impressive. Great game from Niederreiter. He had just a busy game for him on the score sheet for a lot of reasons. But yeah, Ryan Hartman off the chest, collective sigh of relief. That was beautiful.
I'm going to close the book on Hartman just because I want to clear the air on some stuff with this guy. So we used to call him the 38 special back when we were doing our pod last year for the OGs because he was this high value. You know, we had this good deal. He went crazy last year with his points and everything. So I was just looking, having this top line reunited. I think this guy is getting critiqued too hard for having an off year. He's been hurt so much. So I was just looking at his points per game. And if I were to project, if he had played the same amount of games as everybody else in the lineup, right now he would have about 30 points, which, by the way, isn't last year, but it goes 97, Zook, Eck, Boldy, Hartman. He would be fifth on the team in points, which if you were to look at him before last year, I mean, he's gonna, if you give him reps with high quality players, he's going to be good again. He may not be great like last year, but he's going to come through. I think it's great that group is reunited. I think they like playing together. That photo of Kirill on Instagram when you carousel through and there's the one where he's just smiling, looking back at the bench. I just think it feels right to them. And yeah, I think he was banged up. Get a body of work under your belt. I think you'll like the point production from Hartman and his chest.
Well, if it's a contract year for Hartman and he has a huge year last year, and then this is the contract year, I'm his agent saying, hey, listen,
split him up, divide by 2.
Well, but he was playing with those guys the entire year last year.
Correct.
And I think one thing you could say, and I don't necessarily know that it was a bad move, but again, if I'm the agent of Ryan Hartman, I say he was pulled off that line a little too soon. It was like the first 4 games of the year, things weren't going his way, and then it was like, boom, pull the shoot, let's try something different.
And why was it his fault, right? That was a tough time for the whole team.
And again, like if you're his agent, you say, like, I understand you're not going to split up Caprizov and Zuccarello. So if you want to change something, and they were eating a lot of minuses early on in the year, and I think and that's why. And still Caprizov, I think he's fighting back from that to this point. But he was taken off that line really early, and they tried some things. But Sam Steele was legitimately good, and it looked better as soon as he got on there. And that's a guy sees an opportunity. But Hartman's had to battle back, and he tried to do all the things that he has to do to get back into that situation, and that's be scrappy, be an agitator, fight. It unfortunately all kind of went against him. It was just like a string of super bad luck, right? Like he gets into the fight, hurts his shoulder.
Stepping on banana peels.
Comes out, and isn't an agitator, but it seems every single thing was being called. But now he seems to have found his groove. And again, the chest plate has maybe solved it for him. But
sternum.
And it's not off like this shoulder pad. Like it is right off the wild crest, right in the middle of the jersey.
We need to start selling jerseys with a space. So, just heart, man.
Yeah, and again, the agent, he's the heart and soul of this team. It was proved on the.
Yeah, let's represent him this year.
Yeah. Hey, and take 3%.
So the Wild had a great weekend. Another group of people that had an outstanding weekend, I'm told, is the orange, black, and white from White Bear Lake. How did the Carter girls fare? I saw on your story, I saw in your Instagram story, a trophy. It was a big trophy, so I assumed that girl won a tournament, unless they're going crazy with third place trophies. So what went down this week?
I wanted to have her on the podcast this morning because they partied a little too hard with that trophy. If we go back and look at that photo, the
bottom of a swimming pool,
the hockey guy that's usually on top of it was knocked off. So goalie got all excited, threw the glove, smashed the trophy. So they had to try to super glue it together. But the Carters are, and another issue is the Carters are we're not purposefully, but we're raising an agitator too. But
you're working through some adversity.
Yeah, so the 8U won. Yep, they won all their games, and it was fun. Tournament finish. It was half.
So they won first place in the tournament.
Yep, okay. They didn't lose a game.
Assistant coach.
Yep,
congratulations. And then what are the other?
Thank you.
What are the
younger 8U is that's her first year of hockey, and
different teams.
They just go out and play, but they were good too, so they won their games and. Thank you. Those are the ones. So the Bears, and it was the White Bear tourney. So there was, they had home ice.
Moose Goheen.
Yep.
Now we get to the oldest daughter.
The 10U.
Okay.
Yep.
Chip off the old block.
She got herself in a little bit of trouble.
Okay. What are we working through at the
Well, the district tournament started last week, and they lost a heartbreaker in the first game of the district tourney.
Oh, 1-0. True White Bear.
Well, it was overtime. So they had a 1-0 lead until 2 minutes left in the third, and Andover scores a rebound goal to tie it, and the girls were deflated. There's no timeout. So you can't settle them down, and we get to overtime, but the girls are still rattled, and Andover scores on the first goal in overtime, and my daughter happens to be on the ice.
So they're done then. Their season's over.
Not over, but they're
Gotta
not
go back
winning
door
the
now.
district. Yeah.
Okay.
So the best they can do is consolation champions.
Got it.
So they're all bummed out. They had high expectations and aspirations to win, the districts, and they were good and a really improved team. They had a chance, but they lose this one late, heartbreaker. And my daughter decides that she's not going to go through the handshake line, so she stands on the outside and doesn't shake anybody's hand.
So I want let's get into some of the forensics of this. So now you're made aware of this by the opposing team's coach?
It was a different coach. Yes.
Text, email, or like in the lobby?
So there was, we're coming off the ice. It was emotional, and we're hearing that there were some kids who had poor sportsmanship, and we're trying to sift through it. And we go to the locker room, address the girls, and there are tears, and they're angry. Then we come back out, and I wanted to get to the bottom of it, so I launched a full-fledged investigation on what occurred, because the girls didn't really want to own up to it either.
Now, did they go through the line and just dead arm it, or did they stand to the side?
My daughter stood to the side.
Okay. Okay. So now what happens? How does your police work go?
So I text the first coach that was from a different team that saw it as it was coming off the ice.
This is the best.
And then we end up having a relationship with a coach from the Andover team, and he says that some of the girls didn't go through the handshake line. And
you go to video, as I understand.
So there's this product called Live Barn.
Oh my God.
Where you can watch the games. And I have a subscription because I travel all the time. So I log on to Live Barn, and they do have video on demand. So I'm able to watch this. So I can watch her the whole time. And she skips the handshake line. And
that's the best.
Yep. So she comes home from school, and I take her up to her room, and she can tell by my tone, she's like, something was up. I sit her down, and I'm waiting for her mom to come into the room, and she looks just right at me. She goes, "Is this about the handshake line?" I was like, "Yes, it is." We wait for her mom to get in the room, and we talk about it.
You got to have another observer. That's smart. That's smart. It's like when you lay someone off.
It's not okay to do that. And then we drop the hammer, and we say, you have to apologize to all your teammates.
Yep.
And then you're not going to be playing the first period of your next game.
And that's a playoff game.
It was a playoff game.
Oof.
So she
must have lost her mind.
She was mad. She was not happy. But we did it, and she missed
Did the team win the game?
They did, yeah.
Okay.
The team was great too. Everybody was awesome. They all were patting her on her back, and she was sulking the first half of the first period. So I had to go give her a tap and say, "Hey, this isn't about you. You make sure you stand up. You don't sit in the middle and have everybody feel bad for you. You stand up and cheer them on as they come off the ice." And it was a tough lesson.
My favorite line, though,
they won the last two.
You haven't mentioned. You asked her, was this a group thing, or how did this happen? Tell me again what she said.
Well, I said, where did you come up with this? Was this, something that you guys discussed, or like? She goes, "No, that was me. This was my idea." She came up with it on her own, that she was upset with this team and she wasn't going to shake their hand.
So I'm going to give you a counterpoint on this deal. Okay, so we won't talk about it anymore. She's a young kid, whatever. And you're doing the best. That's great parenting, reinforcing sportsmanship. But I would tell you, as we can work with this. We can absolutely work with this. There is something. This is okay. You need a lot of coal to make diamonds, and that is I can work with that. I always remember when my daughter was playing. There was this famous story. A high school team cut a girl high school player that had won state the year before, and he cut her as a senior, and I think she threw a chair through his glass window of the office when she was leaving the premises. And I remember thinking, I heard that all the other parents heard that story, and all you could think of is, you run back out there and you're like, sorry, hey, you're back on the team. Any high school girl player who's launching a chair through a window when they get cut, you can't tell me that you can't work with that. So I think it's great what you did, and that's by the book, but I love the tenacity.
So you're thinking Dexter a little bit.
Yeah, I just think, you can't teach that stuff. The fact that she's like, you can beat me, but you don't get to shake my hand, or even a little. You should tell her, spit in her hand, and then no one even knows, and that's her own little private satisfaction.
Well, if I were to do that, I would require her to have to wash her hands and take a shower after, and then if that were the case, I'd want it to be good, clean, quality water.
Well done. Good way. Get out of it.
So if I were to have that, the people I would call is Aquarius Home Services, and I would have them install a Kinetico water treatment system. So at our place, we do have, a lot of iron in the water. It is hard water, and thank goodness we have our system in place that takes care of it. Now, we go to the barber, we get our hair cut, and they say that we've got the softest hair in town. Our skin has made it through the dry season. We've got a little snow coming, so there's going to be some moisture in the air, but no worries at the Carter household because our skin is smooth, soft, rinsed. And again, if you have water issues, make sure you give Aquarius Home Services a call. They'll take care of you. Leave your critical home systems to the pros, and they are earning the right to be recommended. That's AquariusHomeservices.com.
Karts, I'm sleeping a little better now that the Wild are, collecting some of these points on the homestand. But if I was having trouble sleeping, if I was restless or snoring, what I would do is reach out to mygemsleep.com/wild, because I might be one of the 30 million people that have sleep apnea, and maybe I'm resisting getting help because I think it's going to be a laborious process. How about that word, laborious?
That was impressive.
I know, the way I pronounced it too. But this is convenient. It's like a concierge. It's like, the Sky Cap at the airport. They come to you, they take care of it. Just check them out. Minnesota company called Gem Sleep. Visit mygemsleep.com/wild and return to the world of high energy, great relationships, and better health. I think I just made up a damn tagline for them. Gem Sleep.
Well, my mother is trying it. Her Fitbit told her she wasn't sleeping well, waking up hourly, so she went and ordered. It was shipped right to her house. The kit. So she's experimenting with the testing now, or I don't know what it would be.
How's it going?
But she's in the testing process. But I think she's super stoked to find an answer, and it's coming soon. So that's great.
Well, I like it. Hey, can we talk about our goaltender? I guess, I don't know, that sounds a little aggressive to call him our goaltender, but maybe that's what he is right now.
Yeah.
So we started this podcast. I remember at the Anchor Coffee Shop, he reached out to me. I want to do this podcast to help Minnesota sports fans who left to their own struggle a little bit, and we'll have the Wild fix it first. This goalie, Gus, he's a human-weighted blanket. He's a throw pillow on your lap. He's
under jacket.
He's a snuggly. For a fan base that is so volatile and nervous, and the guy is just a calming presence. It's like I don't even know. It's like noise-canceling headphones watching this guy play. What's the deal?
Do you honestly feel that?
Yes, I'm telling you. And this doesn't mean he's the right goalie forever, or I'm not trying to create some sort of goalie controversy. I'm just saying, if you were going to prescribe medicine for the volatile Minnesota Wild fan base, Gus Bus is a pill we'd be happy to take every night.
The Gus Bus is a real life version of Xanax. Is that basically?
He is. He is a weighted blanket. I mean, it's not that he's robotic. It's just it's just so soothing to watch him play. There's never, I don't know.
That's intriguing. So analyzing, being an analyst on TV, it's hard for me to analyze goaltending because I can't always tell like what's the goaltender's fault and what's the player's fault. I can tell like if a forward was out of position, if a D made a bad read, if all of this stuff, I can't tell like when a goaltender makes like a huge mistake. You can tell when a gaff play with the puck. You can tell when they easily have one that should hit their glove and it climbs over and goes in. But more often than not, it's hard for me to analyze what makes a goaltender good at his job. But I think what a lot of people like defer to is that they're calm and that they provide a calming presence. Think about how often we heard that about Talbot or whomever.
Well, and
He's just a calming presence back there. You just feel good with him in net.
You know who says that a lot is Dean.
Dean, all the time.
If you were to decode, like if I was doing a court case, I can see that he has bias for a calm goaltender because he, for whatever reason, I just think it makes his team. Maybe his team needs to settle down a little bit at times. But, I mean, and Gus had a bad one yesterday, I think. I was at a bar watching it, so I'm not sure. But it didn't look like it got tipped. It kind of went past him. But he's just, the way Fleury plays is much more Tim Thomas-like. He's always kind of sliding and diving, and he makes these acrobatic saves. And I think the thing on his resume is big game goalie. When push comes to shove, he'll show up. The bigger the stage, the bigger the performance. I mean, that's his resume. Hall of Fame goalie, top 3 of all time. I think what Gus is doing now is it's Xanax with leg pads.
If I'm looking at it though, now I played with J.S. Jaguar in Anaheim, and he would always say if I made like a terrific highlight reel save,
I was out of position.
Just rewind about 3 seconds because I made a terrible decision. And I think that you could probably say that that's true with Gus too.
And
right?
That's coming from the shooter tutor himself. I think Jaguar was actually filled the entire net when he played.
So he used to have gear where like
gear, the strings,
gear under his gear that like would move. So he basically had an Iron Man suit under his gear, so that like he would go down and his shoulder pads would like pop up. But yeah, he just was a blocking goaltender in playing the percentages and doing those things, and didn't make a ton of highlight reel saves because his game was all about positioning, being calm in the net, and doing the right things. I think Gustafsson probably falls into that same camp where there's not emotionally in a game a ton of ebbs and flows, where if you have a guy like Fleury, there might be a glove save that tickles the rafters on a breakaway or 2-on-1 one-timer save, right? Where it's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, the team's like, woo, we're going, And then there might be other ones where he just completely misses on that, right?
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, a lot of times the numbers add up to be pretty close to the same. But you might be right where the Steph might just, in general, just might feel more comfortable. This might be a Minnesota thing too. You just feel more comfortable with when you know what you're going to get. And coaches do love knowing what they're going to get.
I mean, we're a nervous building. Until we win a championship, you can turn it pretty quick. I think you're seeing that across the river with that Gopher College team. They're so high skill that the fan base, right or wrongly, is more relaxed. We'll see what happens with playoffs with them as well. But you can change it. When you look at kind of playing it out, how do you think they do this? You think they just roll Gus until he pops a tire and then rotate, or how do you think this thing plays out?
Good question. Well, so there's no way that I don't believe that the schedule goes Tuesday is going to be LA, and then it's a back-to-back.
That's right.
So one of those games Fleury's going to play.
Columbus, Toronto, and then Columbus again.
Back
coming home.
But so are you going straight to Gus? Are you going to try to get Fleury 2 games? So is he going to go LA, then one of the 2 back-to-back? I'm not sure, but I think that when you have a goalie that's feeling it like Gus is, you stick with it, especially when you're in the situation that the Wild are in right now. And that's not throwing shade on a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury. It's just like there's a hot hand.
Yeah.
Why
when you go
why wouldn't you ride with it?
Gus LA, Gus CBJ, give Fleury the big Toronto stage. I mean, he's kind of a big stage guy. It's back-to-back. And who knows, maybe you're coming back with Gus on Sunday at home.
Yeah, my only thought there is it kind of feels like Fleury's been thrown the tough matchup a lot lately.
He has, for sure.
So it's Vegas at home, second to back-to-back. It's been the tougher game. So again, are you going to save him and then just throw him out to the Wolves in Toronto? It's a different matchup in Columbus. It seems like that's a much more gettable game. But yeah, it'll be curious. I will be quite honest. If I have predicted which goal is going to start all year, I've been wrong.
You were.
Oh my goodness, I can't figure out the rotation that isn't a rotation. I
know. Hey, so now Gus, as I understand it, you had an interaction with him on one of your other shows or content deals posted up with Ryan Carter, but I couldn't even sketch Gus in a courtroom sketch. You don't really. He's an enigma, right? He's this no one really knows him. He's like Snuffleupagus. You said he was awesome.
Well, so what's amazing is he's quiet. I don't know that we've ever heard anything from him. Like I don't know that I've consumed an interview.
I have no idea. Marc-Andre Fleury could be playing as Gus for all I know, just doing a different kind of method acting.
Right.
I've never seen the guy.
And I mean, I'm around the club enough, but I don't know much about him. Like he's around, say hello, nice guy.
Beard, big dude,
big guy.
Okay. Like 6'4" or something, like a big man with a beard.
Yeah.
Okay. He's like a guy you would see at like buying a growler at like a tap room.
And Swedes are typically quiet guys. And
mountain bike, maybe.
Yeah, so we had to do a bit for Posted Up, and we thought it'd be best to have all three of the Swedes, Eriksson, Ekbrodin, and Gustafsson in there, hoping that maybe they would just play off of each other and be comfortable in the same room.
Did they do that?
Yeah, they did. Jeez, and then Gus stole the show. He was
the biggest personality.
He actually has a ton of personality.
Wow.
And he's funny. He's witty. I was floored.
Wow. Absolutely. When does that come out?
Yeah, it'll come out in a couple weeks, but spoiler, we ate some hot wings, and it's pretty interesting to get those Swedes
aren't good at that, are they?
They're Swedish palates.
Jeez.
Some spicy food. They weren't happy with me, I'll tell you that, too. They were nervous.
That's funny. So Gus has a big personality, too. Wow.
Yeah,
what's not to like?
Speaking of hot, how about this? This is an interesting stat. Kirill Kaprizov, 2 goals last game, just passed Alex Ovechkin now he's got more goals in the last 3 years, 107. That puts him like 3rd on the list. I think it's like maybe McDavid, Draisaitl, maybe it's 4th. I'll look it up here in a second. But how about the goal scoring from 97? Like it's pretty remarkable. I think he threw 13 shots on goal the other night. And he doesn't look like a selfish player, but how do you just fit into game script 13 attempts and not have it look like you're purposefully throwing everything at the net?
Well, it's funny. I do the parlay betting, and I've just watched how they've adjusted this guy's numbers now. So if you want to bet on Caprizov now, he starts at a point automatically, which no other player does besides McDavid. So you need him to get 2 points to even win on that. And his shot totals are up now at it's like 5 or something. He has to have five or 6 shots to be an over. So yeah, he's firing the biscuit. What a valuable piece, a guy you can rely on. I mean, you almost book him for a point a night. And, he's been in the lineup consistently, still waiting for that fight to happen, but we'll see. Boldy got one, which was nice, but he's just an animal, man. I mean, you can count on him, and I think that chemistry too. It's just he's got the whippy stick. I mean, if he can see the goalie and a lot of these no look passes, he just rips it.
Yeah, he's a shooter, but for me too, if I'm and I am happy to see it and encouraged by it, is the leadership component that's coming from the game. So 3rd period, he comes out, boom,
that's
scores right away. Knows I'm going to be a difference maker, get a separator goal. Comes out, power play. He's just taking those steps and putting the team on his back, and he continues to do it. And despite the fact that all attention is on him, again, like you talk about his rookie year, he was able to put these numbers up, but and he didn't fly under the radar, but he wasn't getting McDavid type of attention. I think now he's getting McDavid type of attention, and he's continuing to produce and continuing to do special things at special times. So that list is Austin Matthews has 127, McDavid 119, Draisaitl 118, and then Kaprizov is next with 107. So that's total goals over the last 3 years. Pretty impressive.
True goal scorer. Yeah, he's been great. And I think the thing about Kirill is he's a winner. I think he, if you watch his body language when we're not winning games, I mean, he just it just looks like he's dying a little bit each day. So he gets stats, but he's certainly not a stats driven guy.
I think he's a stats motivated guy.
No, I think he's winning. I think he just wants to win games. He was great in the playoffs last year. He's going to be great in the playoffs, whenever he's in the playoffs, I think, because I really think that's all he really cares about.
But how about Zuki, too? So Zuki's only had 20 goals one other time in his career. He gets Kaprizov, and all of a sudden he has 20 this year, 24 last year, never been there before, career years. That's another huge endorsement when you have the ability to make everybody else better. And Zuki, pretty smart for hitching his cart to that truck right there, because Caprizov's been. I mean, he is. It's amazing. You can go on and on about this guy. But speaking of amazing players, the Wild had him on the books for about 7 minutes.
Yes. Prepare the Ryan O'Reilly video tribute board next time we play Toronto. Because as I understand it, Ryan O'Reilly was a member of the Wild for 3 minutes.
It was. I think it was probably more than that, but it was just a couple of minutes, 30 minutes, I believe, something like that.
What a good player. We hardly knew you. Maybe we'll retire his number up into the rafters or something. But yeah, I guess, and that's related to our guest, Chris O'Hearn, assistant GM, that'll be coming on. But the Wild are in a unique position with this cap space. The phrases that you're seeing everywhere is weaponizing our cap space and we bought a draft pick as part of this 3-way trade with O'Reilly. And so it's interesting. With any luck, we're going to be on the buy side of the Y in the road here. And we do have some money to make some moves. It'll be very interesting to see what Billy and Chris decide to do. Yeah.
Then I think that it's an intelligent play for Billy. Again, who knows what that 4th round draft pick, it's possible he could flip it, and get something at the deadline, use it. And that's a way to weaponize that salary cap space. But I think it's interesting, and Chris O'Hearn, assistant general manager, he's the guy that they probably had to get into and talk to. He's probably the one that facilitated all the cap issues, what this would cost, how long you have O'Reilly, what's off the books, is it worth it? And we were watching, so that was the night of the Dallas game, I believe, that went down, or was it?
Yeah,
I think it was the Dallas game.
Friday night.
And Billy was in and out of his chair. You could see in the GM box, in and out of his chair, phone call, answer, phone call, answer, phone call, answer, really busy. And it just felt like something was going down. And then midway through the broadcast, there was like an update that this trade has been made. So it's kind of cool to watch it go down like that, how many times and what went into getting the deal done and how many phone calls, conversations, it doesn't make sense. And it seems like it came together pretty quick. But again, I think we're naive to think that went down within the span of the game starting and the game finishing. Like I'm sure Billy and Chris O'Hearn talked about, and he will talk about the fact that the phones get really busy.
Yeah, 15 teams, I think you're basically round robining.
When you're talking to other teams, you say, yeah, I'm cool with being a third party broker to make sure a deal gets done as long as we get some assets in return. So I think the Wild were pretty smart to do that. But before we really get into the deadline, let's throw this to Chris O'Hearn, assistant general manager, and see what he has to say about the deadline, his role as the assistant general manager, what they do at the deadline, cap space, and all that other stuff. So here we go, Chris O'Hearn. Well, now with us, we've got a special guest, former property of the Winnipeg Jets, a stick boy, bat boy, lawyer, super intelligent guy, and now he's the assistant general manager of the Minnesota Wild. Let's bring in Chris O'Hearn. Chris, how are you doing today, my man?
Very good.
Yeah,
good to be here.
Fantastic. The hair's looking good, John. What do you have to say about his hair right now?
Yeah, you got a good product. What do you do? What's your grooming routine? That's how we usually start with most of our guests.
It's pretty basic. It's little towel dry, hand through the hair.
Okay.
Little product.
Do you occasionally blow dry for big events? Like we're getting up to the trade deadline. You're sitting in the war room all day with the guys. Billy's putting eye drops in his eyes like 10 times a day. Do you blow dry for those days?
I haven't blow dried my hair in at least 20, 30 years.
Well, you should consider it. If you're looking for new product, Chris, Duke Cannon makes some of the best. They make a product called Serious Flow, which is a lightweight mane tamer. It's getting to be kind of salad season. We got playoffs approaching, trade deadline, NCAAs, state hockey tournament. And this is hardworking grooming products for hardworking guys. Work harder, smell better. Duke Cannon. You can go to Target and get it, take a trip with the wife, or maybe DukeCannon.com.
So we got to get into, let's go back to the beginning. So you got into hockey because your father was in hockey with the Winnipeg Jets. What was his role there?
He started out in broadcasting. He was a broadcaster. He was a play-by-play guy in the CFL when I was very, very young, and then moved over to the NHL with the Jets and did sideline reporting, and then eventually became the color commentator for the Jets. What point in the, I guess, mid to late 80s. I was very small and kind of worked his way into the marketing and all that PR side of things, and then had maybe a 5-6 year run in the hockey ops as I think, as an AGM and a VP of hockey ops, and was in that role when the team moved from Winnipeg to Phoenix, and I was in high school at that point, and so we made that move, and he kind of stayed with that role for a bit, and then kind of moved away from it. Started working on the owner at the time was building new practice rinks and all that for the team. There weren't a lot of ice sheets in Arizona, so he kind of started doing that, and then ended up sticking with that. The team got sold. He stayed with the original owner, and made many, I think 25 plus years with that guy running rinks in Arizona.
That's fantastic. And a great story goes from broadcasting the CFL to hockey ops to this and that. Fantastic story. So now you grew up a rink rat, so to speak, because your dad was working at the rink. You were able to go to these Jets games and be around all the time. How was that? And is that how you became the stick boy? Like dad hooked you up with a job?
Yeah, no, I said my dad, I was 2 when we moved to Winnipeg. So I grew up my entire youth there. I'd go to the rink as often as I could. Every Saturday morning practice, I was there, get on the hop on the ice after practice. And I just loved being in the locker room. And so I kept doing it, sticking with it my whole childhood. And then when I kind of got to 13, 14, where I was a little bit old enough to kind of go to game nights and help out, I did that. And I was a stick boy, for 8 years in Arizona up until I graduated college. And then I moved away to Boston to go to law school. And then I actually just sort of forced my way into the Bruins locker room and said, "Hey, do you mind if I hang around?" And they said no, but I kind of came back the next day and just kept showing up. And so I did a couple of years with the Bruins while I was in law school, and I just love being in the room. I like being around the guys. I love the trainers, and it's always felt that's just a group of guys I like being with. And so it's you can't beat it once you get that taste. And so it was a way to keep in the world.
What does a good stick boy do? Like, I actually don't even know what the term stick boy is, because you've got the guy on the bench that is ready if a stick breaks.
Yeah. Oh, the stick boy is way, way below that. That's the level of responsibility those guys have, that Tony DeCostas of the world have. That
Cliff.
Cliffy. There was a heavy influence on filling water bottles, vacuuming, doing laundry. I would say those were the 3 biggest things I would do. A lot of laundry.
But it kept you around.
Yeah, no, you're around, and you said it's just especially when you're a teenager and you're to be around NHL players and just get to see games every night and just know those guys on a different level than just watching them on TV, and it's exciting, and again, even just I just loved I started working when I got a little older, they kind of put me in charge a bit of the visiting team. So that was great. You kind of be in on the visiting side and see all these guys come through. And it was, I can't imagine a better job.
How much leftover pizza did you eat?
Lots.
The visiting room after every game always has a spread of pizza out there, and the guys will grab a piece of pizza on their way out to the bus, and that'll hold them over till they can get a decent meal. So the visiting equipment guys or room guys will probably just clean up on all the pizza and all the snacks in there. And
lots of pizzas brought back to my dorm room and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, probably the big man on campus, always pizza at your house Saturday night after the Jets games.
Yeah, no, and it said in Arizona it wasn't as big a deal. Most people, that's been one of the biggest changes coming here to Minnesota. People really sort of appreciating hockey more. In Arizona, people were, it was like, wait, who are those? Are they still there? Are they still playing in Arizona? And it didn't quite have the same pull as it does here. But
Do you get the opposite here, where I just found myself laughing getting ready to talk to you, because I'm picturing you at every Super Bowl party or anywhere, and just every reasonably knowledgeable hockey fan just suggesting pieces that you should trade, and probably anyone they're targeting on another team has a direct tie to Minnesota. I just, do you get a lot of that, pillow talk when you're out and about?
Yes. Yeah. No, and I look, I'm not a recognizable face, but it just in your daily life, you meet people, you ask, hey, what do you do? And as soon as you say it, people are just
They're like,
I can't wait.
I got an idea.
Yeah, like I said, that was the biggest change. Like, I had all those years in Arizona, no one really cared. And then within the first month of moving into our house here, we have small kids. You go to the playground and you just meet somebody, and the word started getting around that I'd meet other people who I hadn't met yet, and they're like, "Are you the wild guy?" I would just be like, maybe, I'm not sure, probably. I guess what you're saying is. And it was just, people were very excited to have someone to talk to.
They're like, my dad wrote this stuff down for you. Just take it under consideration. I wanted to ask, when you, what did you do for Super Bowl? Did you go to Billy's house?
I did go to Billy's house, yeah.
Was there Bud Lights there?
There was Bud Light. There was a heavily stocked fridge, and there was a lot of variety, but there was usually always Bud Light.
Billy, I believe, told us the only thing he was going to have at a Super Bowl party was Bud Light, like no food,
right?
Just
bring your own BYOF. Bring your own food. There will be Bud Light.
He always puts out a good. This is the second year in a row of him hosting the Super Bowl party, and him and his wife do a fantastic job.
What was the winning food item? Was there anything kind of on the podium where you're like a bacon wrap, something or other? Or anything that got your fancy?
And there was sausages and there was chili, and I think his little his favorite, he made it was a Philly cheesesteak egg roll. That was his thing he was trying out. And
how did it go over?
It wasn't the best thing he had out there. I think he mentioned it all.
He oversold it.
Yeah, and I think even he knew he didn't quite pull it off the way he was hoping to. So it was good. It was just he was.
Will you use that as you get ready to the deadline and he's talking about how much he likes a player and you're like, Billy, I think this could be a little bit like your Philly cheese egg roll. Like you think it's better than it is.
I'll think about that. I'll keep that in mind.
That's funny. So were there nachos there? I have to ask, because nachos have been a big thing on the podcast here, and then his wife was in Arizona. Did you see the picture of the nachos in Arizona?
I did see the picture. Yeah, that was
we got to get that. We're going to get that for the podcast.
The bag of Tostitos.
It's a bag of Tostitos, and then a little self-serve Tostitos, like where you aluminum top, you lift it off, and then you dip it in there, almost like a little baby yogurt, and you dip it in there. It was sad, but Super Bowl party's a chance to hit nachos out of the park. So
yeah, there was I think my wife was actually in charge of sort of the chips and dip selection, so she brought.
So let's go back to ASU. What do you think of the venue there? Pretty good. Is hockey growing in Arizona?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, I moved there in high school, and there was one sheet of ice in the whole city. And so where it's come from is it's leaps and bounds. And obviously, see, the team having been there for 25 plus years now, there's a ton of guys that have stayed there, retired there, and so you've got. All these guys that are coaching their kids and other kids in the area, and so it's still not it's still not in anywhere near or Minnesota or Michigan's or Massachusetts, but it's where it's come from. It's unbelievable, and yeah, that rink was again for that ASU team. It's a game changer, I think, for them. They used to play it again that what used to be the only sheet of ice in the city, Oceanside, and I mean it was not up to NCAA levels. So what they have now is fantastic. And as I said, that was my first game going there when we played there last week. And it's a great environment.
How does Arizona produce a guy like Austin Matthews?
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. Like I could see that maybe something like that happening moving forward, but he's not that old, but he was there for a long time. He didn't leave, at age 8 or 9. Like he grew up in Arizona.
Do you remember hearing about him? Was he a kid that was around?
Yeah, no, you did. Because especially my dad sort of being in that building rinks and being involved in youth hockey, you did start hearing that there's this kid out here that is something. Because there was there was a few guys for years up around then that kind of made the minors and all that kind of stuff, and they were they were the big guys that came out of Arizona, and then. And he's just a game changer. And, it's possible that'll never happen again to get a first overall and not even just a run of the mill first overall, a legit super duper star first overall is really amazing.
And that's where my mind goes. It's like, okay, so maybe there isn't that much demand on the ice. So then he's able to be a rink rat on the ice all the time. And then the question comes is, what about the competition that he's playing against? How is he getting that good if the competition isn't that stiff there? And then you go to a place like Minnesota, and you got rinks absolutely everywhere, and there's still not enough ice. But how does Arizona spit that guy out? I don't know. It's pretty amazing to me. But let's go to college. You're in hockey. You love it. You want to be around hockey in the locker room, and then you decide to go to law school. What was the motivation?
Yeah, it was just like I said, growing up, this is what I wanted to do. It was a bit of just a delay tactic in some ways. It was getting towards the end of undergrad and feeling not ready for anything professionally, and so it's like, all right, what can I do to buy myself some more time in school? And so law school with 3 years, I said, all right, let's sign up for that, and it's not going to hurt. And it worked. It worked out well. It was at the time I was in law school from 2004 to 2007. That first year law school was the lockout year, the full year lockout, and what changed after that was the CBA. There was if you look at the CBA before that, it was you'd almost describe it as a pamphlet, and now it's a hundreds of pages long document. And I think and if you look at after post CBA from 2005 to sort of 2008-9 range, you just had there was a bunch of lawyers getting hired and to be part of hockey operations departments. And you had GMs and again, lots of smart people, but maybe not people who were as proficient in this big legal document that all of a sudden controlled a lot of the game now. And so it worked out perfectly for me. I was fresh out of law school, and I said I got word that there was some changes in Arizona. I cold called the new GM and I said, you don't know who I am, but I heard there's an opening, and I said, I don't know if I'm qualified for it. I've never, this is I've been in school my whole life. And he said, I'm looking for someone young and who's got a law degree. I said, well, I got both those things. And so he's like, hey, come on in. And I, drove out to meet him, and then 2 days later had the job offer. So it went perfectly.
That's awesome. So you made your own path. You carved your own path.
Yeah. I said I grew up around it with my dad. It's when Don Maloney was the GM that hired me in Arizona. When I got the chance to talk to him and say who I was, and he invited me in for an interview, I immediately got the phone and called every person that I knew that knew Don Maloney. He'd been in the Rangers for many years. I had a lot of guys, Jim Schoenfeld, John Tortorella, Ben Wallaire, that were all coaches and management in the Rangers, and I had them call Don and say, hey, can you just give him a heads up that I'm not just some random person who got his number. And so it's funny. I went in for my interview, and it was in the Coyotes offices, which I'd been to many times and knew a lot of the staff, and just kind of walked in there, and everyone's saying hi to me, and they were, Don and Brad Schleving was the AGM, and they were kind of like, wait, who are you? Like, why does everybody know you? And why did everyone call us yesterday saying, hey, sounds like you're meeting with Chris? And so it went great. We had a fantastic meeting, and I said I left with a good feeling, and it worked out. And it was 11 years there. I was with the team.
So ASU and then law school. So your LinkedIn is actually a mullet. It's like party and party in front and business in back. It might be reverse mullet, but did you ever go to an ASU party? In my head, every ASU party that's ever existed, you can jump from a rooftop into a swimming pool. Were you ever at a party where that could have happened or did happen? Or is that a made up thing?
It could happen at every house party. Because every house has a pool, and most houses in the
roof is close enough to it.
Yeah, most houses in the Tempe ASU area are single level. Just it would be very easy to do. I can't say I ever saw it. I disappointingly, I was not a serious partier.
That's okay.
In retrospect, I wasted 4 years in that sense.
Hey, this time of year, right? This is like probably a crazy time for your role. My only experience with this is like fantasy hockey, right? And there's a on the block section on the website, or you might call someone and be like, I want to have both the Tkachuk brothers on my fantasy team. Will you trade one? How does this feeling out process go? Is it incoming? I'm looking to add this. Are you interested in moving it? Or does everybody kind of say who's available and not available? Or is it all obvious from the math and, guys like who can move and who can't? How does that feeling out process go the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think it's incoming, outgoing. It's, every GM, starting probably, I would say for sure a week ago, that month leading up to it is there's just the phone calls pick up. And so Billy's getting from, the amount of phone calls he gets is ratchets up significantly. He's making phone calls out to guys that we sort of talk about in our end and say, hey, here's some potential targets we could think about that could fit, positionally, cap, all that kind of stuff. But then every other GM is doing the same thing too. They're calling us and say, where are you guys at? And it's in recent years with the parity of the league, it's so tight now. There's so many teams that are still in the middle of it. There's not a lot of teams that you can legitimately say, all right, they're out. For sure, I would think 2/3 of the league, you're saying, or more, is still trying to figure out, are they in or they out? And so it's just, there's a lot of chatter, but it's one of those ones where we're still 2 or 3 weeks away from the deadline. I think we have 9 games remaining before then. That's a lot of games to sort of decide what path you take, but you got to put the legwork in before that, and that's what Billy's doing right now. He's taking just a ton of calls and making a ton of calls.
Are you talking to? Is it as dramatic as you're talking to the other 31 teams, or is it like you might be talking to 15 teams or 8?
It's probably not 31, but it's closer to 20 than it is to 5 or 8.
That's amazing.
So what is your role? So and get back to your story. You started off as the cap guy, which is it's your job to know the nuance to the salary cap. And for me, I think a lot of that stuff is illegal, like when to call a guy up, when to put him on LTIR, what all that means, getting your ducks in a row in terms of the paperwork and making sure that you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's in terms of the CBA. Then you get into assistant general manager, and now you become a salary cap guy a little bit, so to speak, right? And when you get into these trades, what is your role? So you bring in the pro scout. So you say targets that might fit. That's when you, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, you rely on a pro scout. You bring your pro scouts and you say, who are the guys that fit what we're looking for? This is what we're looking for. Pro scouts give you a list. Then you say, okay, this is what these guys are going to cost. You might forecast what it might cost to extend them, what it might cost to keep them, what it might cost to pay for them. And then you say, this is a fit, this isn't a fit. And then you kind of narrow that list down. Is that accurate?
Yeah. And those guys will come in. Those guys will come in a few days before deadline. But there's a continuous dialogue with those. Like Chris Keller here, our director of player personnel, was here last night for the game. We're talking, and the pro guys are out there. It's a constant communication. We had meetings down in Florida last month. They were there. We had meetings with them, so they know they know what sort of work can work for us.
Yeah.
They not that we give them marching orders, but they know. Here's where if we're looking for somebody. Here's where we're looking for it. What position? Here's what we can afford. Here's and whether we can afford it beyond this year. And so we kind of, as a group, those guys are the ones out there. They're the ones that when we turn to say, hey, look, if one of those teams calls and says, hey, are you guys interested in player X? We call those guys and say, how's he look? You guys are the ones seeing him. Matt Sells is our analytics guy. Matt, how is he scoring out right now? Is this a worthwhile guy to talk about? Is he gonna? He said, and there's, what are we trying to work on here? Not just positionally, but what are we trying? We're looking for, forward, but what kind of forward are we looking for? What are we looking for them to do? What area are we looking to improve? So it's not just, are we looking for a forward defense? Like what kind of those guys? And so there's this constant. The communication has to be, at the forefront, and that's, I think we have a fantastic group of guys that you get along. We like having these debates. We like having these discussions, and so you work together, and you sort of get down to say, look, there's only so many actual. Said you talk to all these teams. There's only so many actual guys that probably would actually fit both sides. It's hard to make trades, and again, it becomes a little easier at the deadline, but there's a lot of moving pieces, and you got to have both teams get on board with something, and so you ultimately kind of come down to this. We're probably only like we made a lot of moves last year, and we got most of the guys we're trying to get, and because you kind of walk into a deadline and say, all right, there's maybe only 2 or 3 guys we're actually even discussing at this point now, maybe even less than that.
So deadline as it approaches, like what are you doing? Like, I picture you with some giant spreadsheet and then plugging numbers in, pulling them out, making sure it fits. Like what on that day? It seems like a busy day.
Yeah, do you have an oversized monitor on your computer?
He's got to have. I just picture like 3. Like the wrap.
Like
around.
money.
That's Matt Sells. Matt Sells is that guy. He's got all the monitors on his desk. I'm a little more basic. It's not, again, it's one of those things you prepare for weeks and weeks leading up to it. It's not as, you're not scrambling as much as you think it might be. It's not, we plan a good chunk of the playing season for this moment because it's for a lot of this season. Like, it's not a lot of trades being made. You're kind of watching, but you're just trying to think about how the pieces could fit come this day, and then even that, like, it's you're also. I'm also. It's not even just that. It's not even just adding guys. You're trying to think about, okay, we got guys that need contracts this year. Where do they fit? Who's going to be back?
Right.
What are they going to cost before you start doing all that kind of stuff? So it's just there's a constant. I always have I keep my documents that I have that are I just keep tweaking them and you evaluate as other teams do deals with players that are sort of comparable to guys that we have. You adjust what you got and so it's not your hope is that you've done enough prep work, you have a good enough handle on what you're doing that when the day comes, like there is some calmness to the day and you're not scrambling.
It just seems like it would be scrambling, but it seems like you guys are all ready for it.
Yeah, you're ready. That's we pride ourselves on being prepared for these kind of moments, and we have a plan. It's been we've thought out, and we adjust the plan on many occasions, but there's a backbone to everything we're doing that we kind of try and stay along those lines. And you said it could get especially with anything with the deadline, creates some sort of anxiety and all that. So you got to prepare for that. But instead, like last year, we were pretty busy last year with the Fleury trade and the Middleton and all that. And so it never felt like, oh geez, this is going to get done.
Right. What's it like negotiating contracts?
Yeah, I enjoy it. Some of them are more enjoyable than others, but we've got Billy and I have a sort of a good routine we've got going. And there's he does some of them all on his own in the sense that he negotiates. I'm always there with here's the information I think we should talk about and all that. But there's some that I just do on my own. There's a lot that we sort of blend in together with. We just, the last one we did, I guess, was Boldy, and I started that one back in the summer. I was talking to the agent in the summer in training camp. We kind of let that die down for a while, and Billy picked it up again. And the both of us kind of came back in together on it. So there's we've got a pretty good. I don't want to say it's not a good cop bad cop routine, but we've got a good way of sort of finding our stride with contracts and so it's I like it. It's most of the agents are good guys to deal with. They're there's a common goal. There really is a common goal for the player and the team. Like we want to keep players want to get paid, and it's just finding that happy medium. And I think I'd like to think we've done a fairly good job so far. We've got a contract situation that I know as someone who's got some skin in the game that I'm pretty proud of. We've got good contracts, but I don't think we've been taking advantage of guys either. I think we've done fair deals that that's honestly that's the kind of deal we want to get done with our guys. We want guys thinking, hey, no, that was fair. They treated me fairly, and we land on the right number. So
how much do you weight playoffs, right? So when you're, especially this time of year, right? It's what everyone's staring in the face, right? We know Colorado, right? Dallas. You can kind of see who you're going to play against. And even a player like Reeves, right? He's probably very different in a 7-game series than he might be on a Monday night against Florida, right? So when you're doing deals, are you projecting out towards, Western Conference playoffs, or are you kind of thinking full body of work, regular seasons for 3 years, or I'm just curious how the playoff factors in.
No, especially I think if you're talking about pure rentals, right?
Yeah, or even a guy like Middleton, right? I think when I think of postseason hockey, I just think he's a totally different player than he might be in the regular season, if that makes sense. I just wonder if you have like a playoff conversion factor or something.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, Jake was a guy that we really liked. We felt like we could use, some of what he brought to the team last year. We were having a great year last year. We just thought he was be a guy that would, and playoffs were part of it. We were, optimistic of having a good playoff run, and we felt like, he was not long on NHL experience, but we just thought this is a guy that's built for that kind of type of game, but it's we obviously acquired him with the intent of keeping him in the fold, like as we have, and so it was for then, or it was for the now, but it was also for the future with him.
So, quick question about like contracts, going back to the Boldy one. What's the advantage to, max term for a guy would be 8 years under the CBA now. He gets 7 versus like a 2-year bridge deal. What are the advantages to both contracts?
Yeah, we honestly, we kind of discussed the short-term one when I said, the agent and I were discussing it in the summer. We're kind of just talking a shorter bridge deal, just thinking, okay, we've got a unique cap situation that we're in right now, and that continues for a couple more years. That maybe this is just the most realistic deal we could find to kind of keep him in the fold. But that being said, we are believers in Matt Boldy, and we, if all things were equal, we'd want to sign him for as long as we could, because we believe that he is going to be, a very high caliber player. So he's already a very good player, and so we're thinking, if this is a blank slate, what we all want to do, and unanimously we all thought we'd want to sign him as long as we could, and so that we kind of started changing our thinking. Is like we kind of just in our minds sort of thought, like we had this sort of preconceived notion, like, oh, it's got to be a bridge deal. We just started saying, well, why does it have to be a bridge deal? Why can't we get the deal we want to do, and then we'll figure out the rest? And so that's how we sort of went from thinking 2 years to 7 or 8. And there's for us, we think we've got cost certainty for quite a while on a player we think is emerging to be should be a star player, and look, he gets a lot of security, and it's
it's a good deal. It seems like it can be a good deal for both sides. And the guy the guy that I look at and is Nathan McKinnon, for example. And I'm not going to say Matt Boldy's turning into Nathan McKinnon, but all of a sudden Nathan McKinnon at $6 million is a phenomenal deal. And then that sets that team up to win because they have all the other resources on the backside of that deal. It might be a little expensive early, but then in the end, then it's really worth it.
Yeah, and that's it. We're trying to, like I said before, we're trying to find deals, and especially when you do deals of that term, you have to find a deal that both sides are comfortable with, because you don't, I shouldn't say you don't want Matt Boldy feeling like he's underpaid, because if he's underpaid one day, it's maybe helping the team and we can spend more other ways, but you don't want him really feeling like, geez, I really sold myself short here. And that's where I think the number we landed on is a number that even if the cap goes up and he improves, that's $7 million is still a considerable amount of money.
Correct.
And, he'll be 29 when it's over. There's still another big deal waiting for him out there. And so I think we found a happy medium there where on the term and the money that both sides can feel like, no, this is going to work out for both of us. And neither side's going to feel burnt by it.
Yeah, I have to ask those questions because I was never like, I never got like a long-term deal. Nobody's ever like, we'd like to sign you to a bridge deal before you get your big ticket.
What was your longest deal?
3 years.
That's not bad though.
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah. 3 years is a lot of term for a guy like me. I was stoked.
Hartz, this is the second year of the podcast, and our tagline's "We're here till it's here." So, it's kind of a lifetime deal.
It's a lifetime contract right there.
Hey, I got to go back to your stick boy days quick, just because you said you love being around the guys, and some of the names you just were throwing out, Tortorella. And did you have any Mean Joe Green moments with someone throwing you the shirt, or like if you're at a cocktail party, what are some of your all-time beauty stories, whether it's Torts or Billy himself or ex-players when you were a kid? Anything you remember that's just kind of in the big book of memories?
Yeah, I said from a really young age, like I was 10 and 11 the year the Solani had his rookie year in Winnipeg, and
72 goals, right?
76.
It's unbelievable.
76 goals, 132 points, and it was.
What happened? I still don't understand what happened that year. How he did that?
Yeah,
Speed.
Yeah, he was such an entertaining player.
He's so cool too.
Yeah, he was. I'm 10 years old that year. It's just you couldn't ask for a more exciting time. At the age I was at, for me personally, like to see a guy like this. Winnipeg we were a pretty good team. I was a little kid, but I was too young to really remember Dale Howardchuk, who was a fantastic, Hall of Fame player and
legend.
And so when Teemu came in, it was just like it was something like, and it's not that different, not dissimilar from Kirill right now.
Changed your market.
Yeah, but again, you sort of think Kirill came in and had a rookie year here and it was fantastic. And what he had and it was a shortened season, but 25 goals and 50 points. Like this guy had 76 goals, 132. Like it was
the Finnish Flash.
It was and then you forget at the time that Tkachuk was a rookie that year. Alex Zhamnov was a rookie. Like it was a very exciting little window there. And so as a young kid, that's what I remember the most. It's just and again, in a city like Winnipeg, which it's a pretty small. Relative to a lot of NHL cities, it's not the biggest play. And so hockey means everything there. And so you have a guy like that come in. And then for me, as a 10, 11-year-old kid, to sort of and he was the nicest guy to me. And again, we're not best friends, but he was a guy who'd say hi to him every day. And
he's like James Bond, right? Yeah. He owns this steakhouse.
Yeah, he's a larger than life dude.
Laguna, right? Yeah. It's like the place. And he doesn't age, right? He maybe sleeps in a cryo chamber or something. He's the coolest man.
For a little kid, just have in that city at that time to have Teemu Solani know who you were and say hi to you every day, and that was
what's up, Flash?
Yeah, it was kind of I was a pretty quiet kid. I was a shy kid. I was but I loved being. It was just kind of cool to see. And again, a guy like Keith Tkachuk was someone who I sort of grew with. I think we traded him St. Louis in 01 or 02, so I was pushing 20 years old. So
was he like his boys when he played, like Big Walt? Now you see him, and he, I went to the All-Star game, and the only players that went to the NHL free food, free drink event were both the Tkachuk boys, the dad, and probably 50 family members just at the open bar. Was he like Matthew and Brady when he was young? Yeah,
I would say. He said I was a kid back then, but he, Walt was a larger than life personality, maybe even bigger than the two boys. It was, and again, the times were different back then. The game was different. The sort of, it was just, it's a little more professional. It's a little more, focused and serious now. And he was a hell of a player, but he said, you look at some of his stat lines in Winnipeg and early years in Phoenix with, 50 goals and 80, 90 points and 250 PIMs. That doesn't happen anymore either.
That's called power forward. Yeah. I mean, his son might be the best power forward now in the league, and there's about 3 of them.
Yeah. So I have an unreal Tkachuk story. I was with the Ducks playing against St. Louis in St. Louis. I have an offensive zone faceoff, and I'd heard that this guy's a great guy. So on the face-off, I was like, hey, I'm like 0 for on the dot tonight, and I need to snap one back here, or I might be sent to the minors. Any chance you can let me win this one, snap it back? I'll give you $20. And he's like, whatever, kid, go ahead, put your stick down. So he does. He lets me snap it back, goes D to D, and we score. D to D, shoot, score. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to lose his mind on me. And I was like, I don't know how to handle this. Do I go apologize to him? Do I say thank you? How do you go? So the game ends up however it does, and it's fine. So, but now I'm talking to the room guy, the assistant room guy, and I'm like, hey, so this is the bet I made. What should I do here? I don't want to be like a donkey about this, but do I send him the $20 or is that
almost makes it worse?
That's what I'm saying. Do I not do it? I said I would do it. That's what I said. I don't know.
What did you do?
So I just said to the room guy, I was just like, I don't know how to handle this, but here's $20. I don't know how to do this, but so that's how it goes. But he let me win that draw, man.
What team was he?
He was a good dude. I was like, hey, legitimately, I need to win this draw.
Where was he playing when he?
St. Louis.
That is so great. I love that you scored right away. Did you see his face afterwards? Was he?
I don't think he cared one bit. I don't think it was not a big deal for him. It was a big deal for me.
He's seen a lot of goals in his life,
right? So, but Yeah,
I'm sure you love hearing that story. As an
great,
assistant.
great human.
Yeah.
He's like, great.
Timo,
He's got 5 folders on face-offs and Kachuk. And,
Just
and
throwing them away.
You guys are doing your own little, just crumples it up and throws it away.
So Solani too is great because I've heard stories. His nickname's 8 Ball too because he likes number 8. But Randy Carlisle was like the captain, Norris Trophy winner in Winnipeg, wearing number 8. And Timu tried to like get it from Randy, like buy from him. He scored 76 his rookie year. He's like, hey, so
I'm 8.
What do I got to do to get 8 off you? And then I end up playing in Anaheim with Timu Solani, and Randy Carlisle is now the coach. So that was a funny dynamic too, where they were teammates, and then all of a sudden Randy's coaching Timu. But Timu had us over for dinner one night, and this guy's house was a compound, the greatest, coolest thing ever. Pool had it was like a resort pool, and then he'd walk you out front, and he'd say, "You want to see all the fish?" You're like, "Yeah, it just looks like a pond in the front yard." And he grabs a handful of dog food and chucks the dog food in the pond, and then you just see like a million fish surface and start eating all the dog food off the top. And he takes you around the corner, and he's got a par 3 golf course right in the backyard. He takes you across the way. He's got a couple of horses, and then he takes you in the garage, and he's got like 6 muscle cars.
Helicopter?
This guy, you're right. He's like James Bond. He had absolutely everything. But he also
out of there.
He also wanted you to enjoy
a great guy.
Everything he has.
The nicest guy you could find.
He has all the stuff so that you can enjoy it, like the best human.
Yeah, he's special.
So before we let you go, I do have a couple questions just on the All-Star game, because I had fans you wonder about the motivating factors when you watch the All-Star game. And a lot of these guys, unless they're on their entry-level deal, they don't get like a contractual bonus to play in it. And then you can get, what are those called? Performance bonuses?
Yep.
Performance bonuses come back into play after 35. But anything after your entry-level contract to a 35 plus contract, you can't get performance bonuses. So it's not like baked into the contract. You can say, all right, Ryan, if you make the All-Star game, I'll give you an extra $1 million this year. That's not possible, correct?
No, I said the entry-level guys, they get a relatively small amount relative to what they're actually making for stuff like that. And then, you can put in something, but I'm trying to think for the 35, I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. I don't know if you can put anything All-Star game related in those ones.
That one's more like minutes.
Games played. Yeah. Goals. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I've seen one that has I probably should know that, but.
So when you hear that the winners of the All-Star game split $1 million, that's not coming from the team. That's coming from the league. And that's not like the CBA. That's just like a bonus to those guys for their time.
Yeah, it's in the CBA, but that's a league thing that they pay out. And I said that hasn't been that many years of doing that. I can't remember when they started that, maybe 5 years ago. So
it's only entry level that have performance bonuses. And what are those? Those are like games played.
No, not games played. Well, you can do games played if you don't have. But it's mostly like goals scored, assists, points per game, time on ice. Plus minus, block shots for defensemen, obviously all the goalies, shutouts or wins for goalies. And then All-Star games, All-Star game MVP, you get a bonus if you get that. All rookie team. So usually, guys that are making on entry-level deals that are making the All-Star game have if not already hit all their bonuses at that point, because you're going to be a 20 goal. If you're going to the All-Star game, you're probably on pace to be a 20 goal scorer. You're probably playing top 6 minutes on your team.
Is Calder in there, stuff like that, rookie of the year or not?
The rookie of the year is not in there. The other ones are though. The Richard, the Hart, the Vezina, the bigger ones, because then really and those go into there's it's a little in the weeds, but there's 2 bonuses: the A bonuses and the B bonuses. The A bonuses are capped out at a certain number. The B bonuses are millions, and those are the big ones. And really, honestly, if you look at each year, the top 5 draft picks of the year are eligible for those bonuses, and those are top 10 league in scoring. You win the Hart, the Richard, the Vezina, the Norris. You're an elite player. The Matthews, the McDavids, the Crosbys. Those are the guys that get those ones.
It'll be complicated coming up here with Bedard and Fantilli and Celebrini, and I mean, there's some players coming in here, some GMs are going to have big folders trying to figure out how to structure those deals.
Yeah, and really, again, those are the easiest ones to actually do because it's like, all right, you're number one. There's what number one gets.
Yeah,
it's everything. Yeah. And then number two, and we'll shave $100,000 off it. But that's we do a lot of all those entry level deals for all your draft picks, and in some ways they're the easiest ones because they're just you slot them with the draft position. Is all right. Here's what all these guys you drafted 86th overall. Well, here's what the last bunch of guys drafted in that range gotten. So there you go. Let's go.
Piece of cake. Well, hey, thanks. This was awesome. I really enjoyed it. Appreciate you stopping by. Hopefully we didn't take too much of your time and you didn't miss too many phone calls, but a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming here. So that was Chris O'Hearn, sponsored by Duke Cannon. Really interesting to learn kind of what an assistant GM does. I can't say that I knew that. And Karts, what do you think is going to happen if we have this $10 million on our ATM card, so to speak, as we're looking at the next month here? What do you think? What do you expect out of the Wild as we push for the playoffs here?
Well, if I'm reading the tea leaves from Chris O'Hearn, it's that the plan maybe isn't entirely solidified yet. So this homestand mattered, and so did winning their games in the Wild, finding their game, and the Ryan Hartman chest plate goal. If that can rekindle the swagger, that might change Billy's mind into going left or right at that T in the road, buy or sell. I don't think under any circumstance is Billy going to be a seller, so that I don't think that that's happening. He's not going to sell pieces and try to get futures. Like, he's not trading Freddie Gaudreau or any of these guys, Duhaime, that are up right now. I just don't see that happening. But could he be a buyer? And I think the answer is yes. But the deal, I don't. It doesn't feel like they're going to be willing to leverage future assets. So that first round pick, I think they really covet. So they're going to try to keep first, second round picks. It looks like with this trade, he's accumulating assets too, looking to try to keep the cupboards as full as possible. That being said, without a plan, if a good deal comes across the table, and I'm not starting the rumor mill here, but let's say a guy like Patrick Kane, who's entirely in control of his situation. Let's say for some odd reason he says, I want to go to Minnesota. And all of a sudden Bill Guerin has leverage because Patrick Kane says, that's where I want to go. Is Chicago, would they be willing to have, a second round pick, a third round pick, something like that for Patrick Kane? Or would they rather just keep him and let him ride off into the sunset? I'm not sure the answer there, but the Wild are in a spot where they can grab a guy like that late that nobody else can afford, or somebody couldn't facilitate a deal. So I think the Wild will be bargain shopping at the deadline, and if a good thing comes across their table, their plate, or their desk, whatever it might be, that they'll jump on it. But I don't think that they're going to be aggressive and go out there and say, all right, we need a scoring winger, or we need a centerman, or we need another big D-man. I just don't see them going out there and doing that, but there could be more. I think that there is a limit on the number of deals that they can be a broker to, and that's 3. So they've used one of those up in the Ryan O'Reilly trade. So if they're going to, quote, weaponize that cap space, they have an opportunity to do it maybe 2 more times, but
weaponize that cap space.
But yeah, I think if they continue to play well, Billy will make the team better if he can, but it's not going to be, you will not jeopardize future assets.
As an analyst, you look at the squad, you see them on a nightly basis. What are we shopping for? Are we looking for just purely scoring because we've struggled 5-on-5? So a guy like Kane is just obviously has a resume for putting pucks into the net. Are you looking for centerman, kind of another thing you always hear about the Wild, or defensemen, specifically maybe bigger defensemen? I mean, those are kind of if you listen to the fan base moaning, it's middle of the ice, undersized defensemen, and this year, lack of scoring. Do you think they have a list like that where they're like, let's get some guys to put the puck in the net, or what are they looking for?
Well, let's call a spade. They're looking for a guy that's likely really cheap, that doesn't have term on a contract, I would assume. Like, they can't afford...
A rental.
Yeah, well, yeah, or somebody, or a hockey trade, right, where they have a guy that they think is fairly priced and will fit into their plans in the future.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of unknowns going forward, who's going to get what deal, Freddie Gaudreau, Duhaime, the UFAs on the books, who's going to be where.
Gus.
Are they going to have money? Like, there's a lot of unknowns there. So they're looking for somebody that could maybe help those things that would be affordable or a rental. So again, that's why I think their moves will be in the 11th hour of the deadline.
Last night, like that day.
Yeah, the final hour of it, and say nobody wants this guy, or nobody's biting on so and so. Okay, we'll take them. You retain this, or whatever it might be. Don't really know, but if they can find somebody that fits into that category, then yes, as long as it can help offensively. I think that they're looking for somebody that probably has a goal-scoring touch they would like. And then on the back end, I still feel that they'd love one more bruiser. So another
Middleton type, playoff D guy.
Yeah. And then I don't think you can ever have enough centermen, but they already have an issue up front. I think that we've seen Mason Shaw has had an impact in the game, and he's noticeable. Chemistry with Dewar. That fourth line has been good. But Dean doesn't like a rotation, so when Marcus Foligno gets back, there's still one extra guy that can play. So where does that fit in, and how does that work? So
I'd like one kind of sniper. If you think of the movie Top Gun, I want one guy that would have a call sign painted on his helmet. That's where you get into like Kaner. I think Brock Besser.
Kaner's like the best one, but the other one is
even
you're
Besser,
be looking for damaged goods.
But I just want a goal scorer, just to have that element of like, I don't know, maybe this changes everything. Yeah. I mean, if you add a Patrick Kane, the fan base would just go crazy. Yeah. And I think the same thing even with Besser, who's certainly had a down season, but I mean, the guy has a history of, snapping pucks into the net, like a Jeff Carter type, like a true goal scorer.
Well, so that's where I was. Now, this contract likely doesn't work, but Vrana, remember, he's the guy that Detroit had put on waivers, has scored in the past, tough streak. Detroit wasn't happy, put him on waivers, sent him to the minors. Now he's scoring like crazy in the minors.
That's a very Billy Guerin, like, buy low, sell high.
And if that was an expiring contract, that's a guy that I think is very appealing in the situation, but he's got another year on it. So then it's almost like check, no good. But that's the kind of guy I think that would be intriguing. Somebody that can score, has scored, damaged goods, tough spot. Let's see if we can't catch lightning in a bottle with one of these guys for 20 some games. And if it's good, we'll see if we can make it fit. But that's what I think they're looking at.
So we got LA coming to town. And it could be a mirror image because Kevin Fiala.
Talking All-Star game?
Yeah, if you look at Kevin Fiala in his Miami Vice All-Star game, and then you looked yesterday straight into the eyes of Brandon Duhaime, they're the same person. I mean, we may not have replaced Kevin's point production, but we've replaced the handsome hole. The handsome hole has been filled by Duhaime. He looks like $1 million.
We've got our GQ mustache. Cover guy back.
Yeah,
but it's amazing too that he gets hit behind the net, sheds the helmet, and he's totally cool with it. It looked like the chin strap was undone, so part of me thinks maybe he wanted the helmet to come off so he'd have a nice little skate. Then he was sitting on the bench. The helmet ends up in the net behind Saros, and Saros isn't going to dig it out. So he sits there and waits after the whistles and icing, and he's trying to hide it. And Duhaime's sitting on the bench screaming, "Give me my helmet!" And he's just pointing to his head, and the hair looks good. The dusters, I mean, he's halfway through it. Like you can tell that he's growing it out, but it looked eerily similar to Kevin Fiala's look at the All-Star game. And with these two coming to town, they might have to have a little mustache off. It's a little chip. California Highway Patrol right there. Mustache getting ready to go.
Ponch and John. Yeah, I could see that. Get the black boots on them, the big glass visors on the bikes. Yeah, it'll be kind of like that Spider-Man against Spider-Man thing when those two are going head to head. I don't know if Fiala still has the stash or not. Was that just an All-Star game treat?
We'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see.
I guess we'll see tomorrow night.
But it's been nice that Brandon Duhaime has been able to construct a mustache in such short order. And if you're not one of those guys that's handy with your hands and you happen to have some storm damage last year or ice dams this year, you don't think that your roof is insulated well enough. And hey, we're expecting 20 inches of snow. And this is when those ice dams can do a lot of damage. All that extra weight can do numerous things to your shingles. Make sure that you check out our buddies here at Wild Construction. And I'll say this again, the Wild, they're not getting into the construction game, even though Bill Guerin is nearing the deadline and he might construct a contender. These guys do physical construction. So whether you have roofing needs, windows, siding, insulation, you name it, these guys at Wild Construction will take care of you. They're locally owned, locally managed, good guys. And hey, listen, Wild Construction, they will make it happen. Check them out.
Wild on 7th is also sponsored by Jimmy's Salad Dressings and Dips. I think a good sign that that's the right type of dressing for you is Jimmy's Salad Dressings are usually in the refrigerated section at the grocery store, like a true hockey product would be. And they're really pushing this chunky blue cheese dressing right now as we push through. Maybe you're watching the USFL or the XFL, hanging on to your football, or maybe you're deep into this playoff drive for the Wild. Pick up some chunky blue cheese dressing, mix it with buffalo dip, maybe throw some French in there and do a blend. Local company, 3rd generation, Jimmy's Salad Dressings and Dips. Don't you be messing with my dressing.
Nice. You know who I'd like to have some chunky blue cheese in him? Maybe just eat a little bit more. Get him ready to go.
I don't know. This is a good transition, though. Who?
Jared Spurgeon, whatever it might be, because he's been blocking so many shots these days that you'd like to have this guy just if beef up, protect himself a little bit more. But I think he had 11 block shots maybe in the Dallas game, and it's pretty remarkable. And we've talked about
this. Does he have most in the league?
Not most in the league, okay. But that number was outrageous. Let's just go back because I don't think that they get credit for this. So when we unpack the numbers and what that actually means, and Spurgeon had a great week. So with the assists that he had last game, he just became
third all-time number one defenseman
in scoring for the Minnesota Wild. So that's kind of a huge accomplishment.
Who did he pass? Nick Schultz?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That was games played, but
who was the scoring person ahead of him? Defenseman. Burns? I don't know. We'll look it up. But I
think it was Suits.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense. Suter. Yeah.
But to make the point on the block shots, and this kind of goes into scoring, he's not going to get credit on the score sheet for this, but the average shooting percentage in the NHL is somewhere around 10%. He blocks 11 shots. So theoretically, you can say that counts the same as a goal. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you usually give up one goal per
10 shots. So you block 10, you saved a goal. So in that Dallas game, it's a 1-1 game. They end up winning in a shootout. If he doesn't block 10 shots,
we give up one more goal.
And we lose that game. And it doesn't count in the score sheet like that, right? But I think guys in the locker room recognize it, and you hear a lot of those dudes say like he's the heart and soul. He does this, but I just like to every once in a while say, hey, like this is how this stat kind of counts. And without him doing that, without that play and that sacrifice, Dallas likely gets one of those in the net. And that doesn't mean that he has to like lay out and block a direct shot. Because look at Ryan Hartman. He got one off of McDonough's hip, off of his chest and in. You block those shots though, it doesn't matter how it was going to go in or how dangerous that shot is, it stops the goal from going in one way or the other. So Jared Spurgeon, congrats to him for becoming the all-time leader in scoring by defense, but he should have one more goal on that after that performance where he had double-digit blocks. He's
been good all year. True captain this season. I mean, all seasons, but he's just really been on fire and consistent all year. So we look ahead this week. The Wild got Fifi coming to town with fish tacos on his breath. LA on Tuesday. Back-to-back Columbus, Toronto on the road. And then back home on Sunday for another CBJ tilt. So let's keep rolling, and hopefully it's time to start rooting against Calgary and Nashville. Let's hope that they have all sorts of problems. Calgary playing Vegas and Colorado this week. Hopefully that's a boo-boo. And let's keep on trucking and get to the Y in the road and go in the right direction.
I'm with you, my man. We're making this a beefy podcast here today. We're getting long, but hey, maybe I've got a couple more points that I think we have to get in right now.
Yeah, do it.
Maybe a two-parter. Keep people with us a little bit longer. I want to talk Beckman real quick and why I think it was him that was called up.
Good energy.
Yeah, he has had good energy.
Friday night.
He looks mature. And he looks the part, but I think it's even a little bit more than that. I think the Wild they're hungry and starving to score 5-on-5
He's
goals.
been scoring like crazy.
He was scoring in Iowa, so that plays a role in it. But I also think that they're protecting Rossi. A lot of people are like, why not Rossi? Rossi's playing good. Why not bring up the young guy? Give him another shot.
I need him to get 30 points still this year.
Kinger needs him to get 30 points. Bring up Rossi. But that was the situation that he was put in at the beginning of the year, was to come in, play a top 6 role, and need to produce.
Yeah, he had to be Matt Boldy last year.
He had to be. And the pressure, and we don't really know exactly what it was, but the pressure didn't help. I think we can all say that for sure. So you put him in a spot where he maybe wasn't going to have a chance to succeed. So you send him down to help him find his game. It wouldn't make sense to call him up in a pressure-packed situation and say, all right, here you go. Here's chance number 2. Same exact spot. Go get it, kid.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that they're in some ways protecting Rossi and just saying, all right, there's no pressure. You continue to play, but they call up a little bit older guy in Beckman. And I think it's the right move. They put him in a situation where Beckman can be who he is. He gets a chance. He looks mature, shooting the puck. Again, he was on a 2-on-1. And who was it with? But I think it was a 2-on-1 with maybe Boldy or somebody, and he's like, nope, no chance, I'm shooting this one, and fires the pill. And that's what he's here for.
Well, the expectations are so different. I think when Rossi gets called up, you expect him to score. When these other guys get called up, you just expect them to look like they belong. So it's really a different, if Rossi comes up and he's 3-4 games in, no points, people are saying that he shouldn't have been called up.
Right.
Or Beckman, if he just looks high energy, he's running around, he's, giving attaboys on the bench, I think they're almost like cool with it because he's bringing some youth and energy to the team.
Well, I like the makeup, and I want this line to find chemistry really bad. So you have Eriksson Ek, who's like a net front drive guy.
Yep.
He's like your greaser. Then you've got Boldy, who's like your Soch, right? Like he's your setup guy, and he's got the vision, the skill, and then you have what should be the finisher, Beckman, on that line, just a guy that wants to shoot. So all of a sudden, like you're going to have Eriksson Ek at the net, you have Boldy making plays, and you have Beckman shooting. Everything looks like it should come together well, hoping it does. But
we got to give these lines more time, too. It seems like we shuffle the deck pretty quickly. I think you almost need like 6, 8, 10 games to know if it works, right? It's if they only get a couple games or a game, I don't know, it's tough to tell, but that seems like the math on that would work, Ek, Boldy, and Beckman.
So last one I have is Middleton related, and I hope that he is okay and not injured, but I got a little giggle out of this one. He did have to leave the bench for a little bit.
We got to see the video on this.
Yeah, so we're going to dig up the video, but what ends up happening is he's like skating up the ice, and it looked like he was going to go for a change, but he didn't go for the change.
Okay.
So, and somebody else maybe thought he was and this is a Wild teammate, and I don't know which one it was, so we're going to have to pull the video. It was about 6.5 minutes left in the third period.
And he just gets smoked?
Right into his own bench. So
Does he go over the bench?
The door opens up, and he gets hit.
Into the door?
Into the door frame.
No.
But then he's like laying on the ground with like his feet hanging out the
like
door.
The Wicked Witch of the West.
Yes.
Oh no.
He was able to get up and finish the shift. That's why I knew that it wasn't like a full accident. But he gets up and finishes the shift. But it was hilarious. So I got to find out who ended up hitting him
just
into the bench.
Socks.
Yeah, exactly.
Striped socks sticking out from out of the house. His fanny packs snapped off.
It would have been great if he came out riding a stick like a witch's broom. That'd be hilarious.
Oh, Jake.
Poor guy though. Like that's a tough one. And he's probably going to be upset with the podcast. He's hoping that nobody saw that, and then here I am bringing it to light.
Dean's all about teammates, and so we'll wait. We got
a little friendly fire.
Yeah, friendly fire. Apparently he took one. They're got to have camera on this from whenever they have too many men, and they have that camera
the bench view.
Yeah, we got to get it and see who did them dirty with the friendly fire and
a lot of youth teams, because you split the ice, they'll leave the bench doors open as they're doing their skating drills, and I'm always like skating over, closing doors, like, hey, these kids are like 10 years old, 8 years old. It's
like having a landmine.
They're not that sure on their edges anywhere near there. These kids are going to get decapitated. Close those doors. So all you coaches out there, close those doors.
Close the door. Take care of Big Jake Middleton too. I think let's just keep rolling, right? We got the Gus Bus. We're driving around. Spurgeon apparently is wearing goalie pads too, making 10 saves a night. So that's worth something as well. Did you have anything else on your list?
Well, just power play, but
yeah. What do you see in there? What Addison is? We hardly knew yet. What's going to happen with Addison, Goose, and what is your power play thought?
Well, the way that the power play continues to produce is probably not a good thing for Kalen Addison. I mean, don't take that. It's a great thing that the power play is producing and that the Wild are still finding ways to accumulate points. And I'm sure he's happy that the team is winning. But for him to get back into the lineup, I think that the power play needed to suffer in some regards. And Everson has said that they want him just to defend harder, to be more of a presence, and to throw a cross-check net front, to finish hits in your own zone, and to be, I think, a little bit meaner. Like I said, what they're looking for at the deadline, it's just like a meaner dude back there. So just bring a little bit of that sandpaper, and that's what he's probably out looking at right now, and encouraged to look at while he's sitting in the rafters. But now the power play has just been absolutely clicking, and Goligoski seems to fit right in. And I'm not taking anything away from Alex Goligoski or Kalen Addison, but it's almost like the other four guys on the ice are just that good right now that it doesn't matter who's back there. You could put Ryan Carter on top there and just say,
wow,
distribute this thing, and they'd be clicking.
Interesting. Is that maybe Billy's listening?
Well, they do have the opportunity to sign some more people. I would have to clear waivers, which maybe would be tough.
Yeah,
I've done it while I was playing. I'm pretty sure I'd clear them now.
Yeah, I think you could probably slide through there.
But no, those guys, they're on another level in the fact that they're scoring from both sides. It's different dudes. It's like it's Caprizov, it's Eriksson Ek, it's Boldy, it's Zuccarello. It's never one dude. It's all of them. Like everybody's cashing in right now. This power play is ridiculous, and it's had to be for the Wild. Imagine where they'd be without the power play and how good it's been. Man, it would be. I think that it would be a dark place in Minnesota. So, hey, everybody say your prayers and thanks for this power play and how hot it's been.
That's right. Hey, and I was at the game on Friday and I saw some of our merch. We got Wild on 7th merch.
Woo!
At the Hockey Lodge.
Oh, so it's at the Hockey Lodge.
Yeah, you can walk in and buy it. Yeah.
Get your merch at the Hockey Lodge. And Wild on 7th. Let's go.
And it says we're here till it's here, which is exactly the right type of mentality to get over the hump here. So check it out. I think the shirts are cool. They're in the Hockey Lodge, and when we see them, Carter will take a picture with you. You won't recognize me. I'll just walk by you, but get your picture. Slow Carter down when he's trying to walk through the concourse.
That's it, man. Hey, good podcast. Thanks for sticking with us. We know this is a meaty one, as Mike Russo would say, but thank you guys. We're here.
Till it's here.